This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
Well, on Wednesday, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi delivered his inaugural speech to the United Nations General Assembly meeting in New York. He applauded his nation for, quote, revolting against corruption and despotism, and he vowed that Egypt under his rule will respect freedom of opinion and religion.
From this podium, I first support the great people of Egypt that made history twice over the past few years. First, when they revolted against corruption and despotism and claimed their right to freedom, dignity, and social justice. Then, when they held on to their identity, and enthused by patriotism, they rose up against exclusion, refusing to succumb to tyranny of a faction who, in the name of religion, put their interests before the interests of the people. Our aim is to build a new Egypt, a state that represents its rights and freedoms, honors its duties, and ensures coexistence of its citizens without exclusion or discrimination. A state that represents and enforces the rule of law, guarantees freedom of opinion for all, and ensures freedom of belief and worship to its people.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is set to meet with President Obama and reportedly request more U.S. assistance, including military hardware. Human Rights Watch is calling on Obama to use the meeting to publicly criticize Egypt's continued crackdown on human rights, including the widespread jailing of political opponents, mass death sentences, and lack of accountability for the killing of more than 1,000 protesters by security forces in July and August of 2013.
Meanwhile, dozens of Egyptians have begun a hunger strike to demand the release of imprisoned activists they say are being unjustly detained. The Egyptian Press Syndicate recently held a sit-in hunger strike in its offices in Cairo to demand the release of political prisoners. Well, in a Democracy Now! Global TV radio web exclusive, we're joined now by one of Egypt's formerly imprisoned hunger strikers, Abdullah al-Shami, Al Jazeera journalist who was recently released from prison in Egypt after being held for 10 months without charge. During his imprisonment, Abdullah al-Shami went on a hunger strike for nearly 5 months, reportedly lost over a third of his body weight. He's in New York to lobby for his fellow Al Jazeera reporters still in prison. On Wednesday, as Abdullah walked across the street to the United Nations, where the Egyptian president spoke, Sisi supporters threw hot coffee on him. Abdullah al-Shami is with us now in New York. Welcome to Democracy Now! What happened? Tell us what happened just yesterday.
Well, I was actually trying to get to the United Nations building because, you know, I was accredited to go inside to kind of attend the sessions, and I had two of my colleagues from Al Jazeera along with me. So we were just walking down the street. That was probably 47th Street, and there were protests there, you know, Chinese people, Iranians and other people, and then suddenly one of the Sisi supporters, it was a lady, I remember, she kind of identified me and said, you know, started shouting to the others, guys, this is the traitor, this is the guy from Al Jazeera, and they started shouting against me. And then just for me kind of, you know, ease things down because, you know, they looked so aggressive, I kind of walked back, you know, to where I was coming from. And then suddenly, I didn't actually see the person, but I felt something was thrown on my, you know, my legs and my back. And then when I saw it, it was boiling coffee. And well, what's actually disappointing is that when we reported this to the police, they said we can't do anything because we were not there. So this is what actually happened.
Well, when we were showing that clip of President Sisi, you mentioned that a lot of the same people around him at the UN were there during the Mubarak era. Could you talk about that? Yeah.
No, I mean, they say this is a new country, this is the new Egypt, yet it's the very same faces. They are the very same guys who, during Mubarak time, were supporting all his tyranny and dictatorship. And you can't change to a new system without changing the people responsible for that system. He claims there is, you know, freedom and press has the right to do whatever they want. They can even criticize him. He said that on CBS with Charlie Rose, but yet my colleagues, Peter Grest, Bahir Mohammed and Mohammed Fahmy are still in prison now for over 8 months, and many dozens of journalists are still in prison.
You were arrested before they were. You were held for 10 months. You work for Al Jazeera Arabic, though you're moving over to English. They work for Al Jazeera English. What happened to you? When were you taken?
Actually, on the 14th of August, when the security forces started cracking down on the protest at Rabat Square and other places.
2013.
Yes, last year. I was just covering, what's happening there, just like any other day, because I have been stationed to cover that place since the 5th of July. I actually work in West Africa. That's where my, where I'm based in Nigeria. But I was asked to move to Egypt to kind of cover there. So on that day,
and you are Egyptian. I
am Egyptian. Yes. And on that day, the security forces kind of, made it hard for anyone to leave. I mean, I remember they claimed that there was some kind of warning for people to get out before they started clearing the place, which is not true, because at 7 o'clock in the morning, I was in the makeshift hospital, and I've seen dozens of bodies inside there. So at the end of that day, when the whole place was raided, and there was actually no any kind of resistance from the protesters, I had to leave, and I was at that time in the Rabat hospital. It's different from the makeshift hospital. It's like a 6-story building there. So they stormed the building with guns and weapons and different. There were mostly special forces, and they asked everyone to leave and to kind of surrender by putting their hands behind their heads. So I kind of left. The only exit was through Rabat Mosque towards the 7th district of Nasr City, where the protest was taking place, and then I had to cross to a police checkpoint. There were 2 checkpoints, one a police checkpoint, and then the one later was an army checkpoint. At the police checkpoint, nothing happened, but when I got close to the army checkpoint, I was asked to show my ID to one of the army officers, and that's actually when my detention journey started, because I remember them saying that, he was telling his colleague that I think we've just got a spy, because when they saw my passport, and it had, because of my work as a journalist, they had many visas, and it was mostly filled up, so they thought, well, we've got somebody here, and that's when my detention started. And
did they ever formally file charges against you and during that period of time?
Well, actually,
that you were being held?
Yeah, well, actually, we were about 1,000 people who were detained that day, and everyone was charged with the same things. Things like inciting murder, possessing weapons illegally, assaulting police officers, causing public disorder. Mostly these kind of crimes. It's actually 15 charges, but actually this was never brought up to a court because there's no any kind of evidence, and it was just plain charges.
Talk about the hunger strike that you went on, that you launched in prison.
Well, after 5 months of my detention, I felt that this was going no way, because, trying to go through the justice system was kind of hopeless. There was just the usual detention renewal every 45 days. They take us as a group of people, almost 300 in one time, to see a judge who doesn't really listen to us or even to our lawyers. And even though sometimes when the judge listens, he kind of makes the same decision every time. So I kind of lost hope in the whole judicial system, and I believe it's a total farce, because it doesn't really, it lacks any basics of justice. So I decided I was going to embark on this hunger strike to kind of tell the world that I'm a journalist. I've been in prison for over 5 months now, and nothing is, why am I in jail? This is what I just wanted to say. I said, if I am actually, if I've actually done anything, then, well, take it against me and put me in jail. But there's nothing. I mean, so I decided I was starting this on the 21st of January, and I knew it was going to be a long way till I get my freedom back, because I was just trying to, be inspired to kind of, use former experiences of hunger strikers around the world in the last century to kind of give me support. So that's why I started the hunger strike.
And meanwhile, you were being shuttled back and forth from one prison to another, held in solitary confinement for a while. Talk about those experiences.
Yeah, actually, I was held in 4 jails. The longest was Liman 2 Abu Za'bal. It's a prison kind of northeast of Cairo. It's in the Nile Delta. And I've stayed there from the 20th of August 2013 till the 16th of December, same year. And there was another prison, Istiqbal Tura, which I stayed there from the 16th of December till the 12th of May. And the last was the maximum security prison, usually known as the Scorpion, Al-Aqrab, for 37 days. The last one was actually the most the most painful for me, because I was in a solitary confinement all the time, and I was not allowed to get in contact with anybody and was cut out from the outside world.
I want to turn to what you said outside the prison when you were released. This is just after you were freed. This is Abdallah Al-Shami.
I have won, and everybody who is a freedom fighter, either a journalist or anyone doing his work credibly and with honesty, has won. Because this isn't, I mean, this experience has changed my life. I am not the person who has been anymore. I am now more determined than before to carry on with this struggle, not just because of me, because for everyone to be able to do their job freely. 149 days of hunger strike is an experience, of course, I'll never forget in my life. Everyone who has been into this battle, the battle of hunger strike, has always won. They have never been any.
That was on the 17th of June when Abdallah Shami, the Al Jazeera journalist, was released after 10 months in prison. So today you're here in New York, and so is the Egyptian president, under whose regime you were held, under Sisi's government, and before you were held. He has met with former Secretaries of State Henry Kissinger and Madeleine Albright, and then he met with former President Clinton and Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, who may well be running for president. Your thoughts about this and what you're calling on President Sisi to do, and why you're here in the United States?
Well, I'm here to lobby for my colleagues, my 3 colleagues from Al Jazeera English, who have been in prison now for over 10 months, I believe, 270 days. And this is actually the thing that every official in the United States, starting from President Obama or Secretary of State John Kerry or any other official who kind of believe that Sisi is really going to keep up his promises, you know, through spreading democracy and preserving freedom of press, should kind of put more pressure on him, because I believe this is the only way that my colleagues will be out, because pressure has worked in my own case. It has worked in other cases like Alaa Fattah and other prisoners who were able to get back their freedom. They should actually do more, because I remember Secretary of State John Kerry one day before the sentence saying that he was giving a firm promise from Sisi to keep a good record of human rights, and the next day you see 7 and 10 years for my colleagues. So I think if really the United States wanted to do more, they can do to put more pressure on him. And at the same time, I think all what he says or what he says is not really true, because he claimed with Charlie Rose and CBS that the freedom of press was preserved and everybody had the right to say anything. Yet you see Peter and Baher and Mohammed imprisoned for over 8 months now. You see other journalists also in prison, and I think also I think if really that pressure is taken to an utmost level, then that will definitely work, because that's the only way the new government in Egypt, I mean, that's the only language they start.
And clearly it's not just the journalists, it's thousands of others who are also in jail in Egypt, right?
Definitely, and one of them, which is Mohammed Sultan, the American citizen who's been in prison for over 1 year now, without any kind of charge, and he's been on hunger strike for 8 months now. And I kind of think that there should be more done for him. Last session, which was just 2 days ago, he was not even able to go to court, and the American ambassador was not allowed in. So I think this is really shameful and disgraceful that the United States doesn't do more for the cause of press freedom and freedom generally.
He is reportedly, Mohammed Sultan, the 26-year-old American citizen, is reportedly near death.
Yes, that's true. Because actually he is suffering from some medical conditions. He was suffering from that even before his imprisonment, and he doesn't get any kind of medical care. And last court session, the judge said that he should not be taken to hospital without his own permission, which is kind of, making it harder for him.
You were held before Sisi was elected, and then a little bit afterwards, after he was elected. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. When do you head back? But you won't be going to Egypt, I assume.
Yes.
You will not be returning to Egypt?
Not anytime soon. I think because the atmosphere in the country now is not welcoming for journalism. Especially the kind of journalism that's really after telling the truth and doesn't really take any kind of political stance, because I can't go back to Egypt and my colleagues are still there. I mean, at least where there are no any kind of signs that their release is imminent or their conditions are improving. But yet I'm hoping that the appeal which was filed for them a month ago would work, and hopefully we'll see them and see other prisoners in Egypt walk free back to their families.
We want to thank you very much, Abdullah Al-Shami, for joining us. Al Jazeera journalist who was recently released from prison in Egypt after being held for more than 10 months without charge during his imprisonment. He went on hunger strike for nearly 5 months, losing a third of his body weight. Again, his colleagues, Al Jazeera journalist Peter Gresti, Bahar Mohammed and Mohammed Fahmy, remain in jail, in an Egyptian jail, after 8 months. This is Democracy Now! When we come back,